First of all, on behalf of all of us, I'd like to thank Maeve for being here, and our very own Tony Brabazon. Where's Tony? There's Tony over there. Maeve here is Dean of the school here, and Tony is Dean of the entire UCD College of Business. And just as we've all grown and developed, so has the UCD College of Business. On top of the fabulous facilities here in Belfield, there's now also obviously now the Smurfit School out in Blackrock, but also what many of you may not know is there's an international campus, so you can now get a BComm degree from Sri Lanka to Singapore to Hong Kong. So I think the sun never sets on Tony's empire. So. Tony, thanks for having us here tonight. It's great to see the lunatics taking over the asylum. I had a great pleasure of working for a while with Tony and Maeve, and I know and all of the staff out here. And I know that for those of you who have your children here or thinking of sending your children here, that they will get a great education here. I thought. In terms of, before I move on, I'd also like to thank the team in alumni relations, Tara Collins, Elaine, Quiva, for all of their work in rounding us up and organising tonight. So if you can just give I know how much work it is for those guys to do that. Thank you. Well, 30 years ago, wow, 30 years. So long ago, yet it seems just like yesterday in so many ways. But in terms of, I suppose, kind of some of the things, the world has changed an awful lot. Obviously, in 1988, there was no euro, there was no mobile phones, there was no internet. Indeed, as we were sitting our final exams, they were laying the first ever fiber optic cable from Europe to the US to transfer data in what was kind of the very beginning of the World Wide Web. And that was just happening as we were sitting our final exams. Of course, in those days, in 1988, Ronnie Reagan was president of the US. He was up to his funny deals with the Nicaraguan Contras and the Iran-Iraq war with his old friend, Lieutenant Colonel Ollie North. Remember him? Meanwhile, in Russia in 1988, Mikhail Gorbachev had just launched an economic reform package called Perestroika. By the way, it was the Soviet Union back then, so lots of things have changed there. In South Africa in 1988, Nelson Mandela had just celebrated his 70th birthday in a jail in South Africa, and the ANC were organising a big rally in Wembley, which led to kind of the fall of, ultimately played a part in the fall of apartheid. And the release of Nelson Mandela a couple of years later. And meanwhile, while such tumultuous events were going on around the world, our good old friend the Australians were making their biggest ever contribution to global society when in 1988 the first ever episode of Home and Away was aired. I think here in Ireland you could call 1988 the year of the good, the bad and the ugly. Oh, Tom, hey! And all the pints out now, Tom, are they? Are you bringing us back to your place afterwards? In 1988 here in Ireland, you could call it the year of the good, the bad and the ugly. I think the good would have to be when in a certain month of... He hasn't lost his touch. I think you'd have to say the good was when in the month of June in the town of Stuttgart, Ray Houghton did, as they say, stick the ball in the English net. I think the bad probably in 1988 was probably early on in the year when there was, you may remember, there was the killings of IRA suspects in Gibraltar, Ireland, followed by Michael Stone in Milltown Cemetery with his attack on the funeral, followed by the IRA brutally beating and shooting live on television 2 British Army corporals. So I say that was probably the low point of 1988. And as for the ugly bit, well, I mean, take your pick. Charlie Haughey was Taoiseach, Maggie Thatcher was UK Prime Minister, and Conor McGregor was born. So, Elaine asked me to pick out some of the memories of what happened in the commerce class. So here we go. No, I can't read any of this. No, I won't. But I suppose in terms of, I do remember lots of great times, whether it was, chatting on the wall outside Theatre P, or trying to eat chips from steel bowls in Belfield restaurant, or drinking free pints of Budweiser in Belfield bar supplied by Barry Mulligan, or cheap pints of Amstel supplied by Mick Gately at the time. Lots of great times, whether it was at the Blades playing in front of the library, or the Benzini brothers, then future words to go on and become Hot House Flowers playing in Belfield Lake, whether it was the Freshers Ball on the NV Aaron, if you remember that. I only remember the beginning of that. and then on to the Tramps Ball in the Olympic Ballroom, through to the Com Ball in Juries or the Burlow, onto Mistletoe Madness in Mansion House, back again to the Olympic Ballroom for the Matchmakers Ball on Valentine's Day, and of course all the buses home. And I think I've still got bags of 50 pences from all those buses home. Used to go to Ranelagh, Rathmines, Rathgar, Terranure, Clonskeagh, UCD and Stillorgan. Ingrained in my memory. One of my favorite gigs here on campus was we had Christy Moore for 2 nights in Theatre L at the beginning of our two fantastic nights. A big Christy Moore fan, so I loved them, but I loved them particularly because it kept me in beer money for about 3 months, and also paid for the flight to Boston for the J1 summer of 1987. But in terms of I suppose between all of that madness and all of that fun, there was, I believe there was lectures and exams and projects and all of that. And just a few of the memories from those guys. I mean, I think I'll always remember the way that Pierce Colbert used to kind of study student cards so that he could freak you out by knowing your name when you'd never met him before. Or the everlasting tan on Des Halley, or the engaging anecdotes of Tory Hurahan, the economic theories of Des Norton, the flying spittle of Frank Bradley, and also the sheer mathematical genius of Sean Dineen, matched only by his sheer stupidity in trying to take on Brian McGovern in a battle of wits in front of the whole class. But as we've all done our own individual journeys and moved from radicalism to rheumatism, from boldness of thought to boldness of head, and from expansive ideas to expansive waistlines, I think we've all treasured and valued, the education we earned, the memories we made, but I think most of all the friendships that were fostered in our 3 years here together. So it's great to see everyone again, and all I'm going to say is enjoy the night. Here's to the next 30 years, and we have a little video which Caoimhe is going to play for us now to bring back a few memories. Thank you.